Good evening. Would you all stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Let us pray. Our God and Heavenly Father, we live in a culture which is increasingly does not recognize your sovereignty over all who live and breathe in this world. Yet one day every knee will bow and every tongue confess that you are King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Your word, laws, and principles never change, and all will be held accountable before your throne. I pray that City Council will ask for the wisdom of God in all their actions, acknowledging you alone hold all truth and wisdom. May any ordinances, rules, regulations, and procedures they pass reflect the righteousness of God. May all their decisions be made with your wisdom and guidance so that everything enacted may reflect the morality, justice, and equality and equity of God. In Jesus' holy and matchless name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Leach, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for March the 10th, 2022. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. This evening, we have two people that have signed up to speak to council, and so they'll start this evening with Henry Sasson.
Is this on? Yeah. Henry Sasson, 1307 Greenmont Hills Drive. A month ago, on February 10th, I started talking here about contribution for $6,000 towards the repair of the YMCA pool. And since then, this is now March 10th, and I've made full circle. So after being here and talking to Vienna City Council, we had the West Virginia State Swim Championships for high schools the following week. And then after that, I approached the city of Parkersburg, the Wood County Commission, who donated $6,000 at that meeting. I then went to the city of Belpre, city of Williamstown, town of North Hills, city of Marietta, and this past Tuesday, the Wood County Board of Education. So all meetings are held slightly different amongst you guys in the whole community. Everyone's got the same issues, same type of style, and everyone is working about the same way. Going through, everyone has to go through and add it to their agenda and then vote it up or down, so it takes time. I understand that. And Mayor Rep, I thank you for giving a heads up to everybody because they knew that I was coming. So we'll see what happens. I thank you.
Next this evening will be Jack Heater.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak to you before your meeting tonight. An issue I'd like to bring to your attention is resurfacing of 7th Avenue. I know the budget year is starting. I know that pretty soon you'll be looking at streets to resurface that need to be resurfaced. This makes my third appearance before this council to try to get this avenue repaired. For those of you not know where 7th Avenue is, I'm talking about the avenue that runs from 46th Street to 41st Street. That's a direct route to Vienna School. Straight shot to the school. During the school year, this is a heavily traveled street. Morning and evening and all time during the day. The street, like most of them in this town, is what I call a lane and a half. In other words, you park on one side of the street, everybody has to drive on the other side of the street and wiggle your way through. Therefore, it puts a lot of stress and strain on the one particular side of the street. This street is probably 50% concrete, 50% asphalt, aging, various holes in it. There are dips in it. The street is sinking in places, and it is very rough to get through there. And as you can imagine, during before and after school, the traffic always tries to zip in and zip out because people have to go to work, drop their kids off, pick their kids up, or whatever. So it is getting to be a rough avenue. So my request tonight is for y'all, when you're considering your budget, considering resurfacing avenues and addressing streets, please consider 7th Avenue between 46th Street and 41st Street as part of that project. And thank you very much.
Before we move into our agenda this evening, I have something that I would like to do before we start. Matt, if you and Adam would meet me up front, please. Right here in the middle. All right. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me. So, for all of you that don't know, Matt, he is the new football coach, the head football coach at Parkersburg High School. His name is Matt Kimes, and he comes to us as a Big Red, but he was very successful at Warren High School. And so now that Coach Bias has moved on, they've hired Matt to take over the Big Reds. And I have to tell you that I just found this out last night. And so as I was watching the television coverage, I got a sense of excitement, okay? I've had football tickets for the Big Reds for a number of years, and then I quit. It was just, I don't know, the spirit dropped. It just wasn't what it used to be. And when I saw that you were named head football coach, I actually got excited. And so I can tell you, I will be getting my season tickets back this year. And, you know, I don't expect miracles. You know, everybody has a favorite phrase, you know. But I'm telling you that I believe in you, and I believe in all of the people that I know that are around you. And I think that with the skills that you have and the team that you're going to build as a coaching staff, that you're going to take our young men and you're going to make Parkersburg proud. And when I say Parkersburg, I mean that to mean entire Wood County. I'm a sports guy. I don't care what school you go to, you know. I am a Big Red and always will be. But however, I'd love to see the Parkersburg Catholic girls win the state championship, okay? And I don't care. I like it when Parkersburg South wins the state wrestling championship. It's just one of those things. If you're from Wood County, I'm on board, okay? But I know, and I tell you this, and the reason why I asked you to come tonight is simply because I've watched Adam work with the kids at Jackson Middle School for a number of years. And I can tell you that Vienna, the Mid-Ohio Valley, we want you to succeed. You bring great things to us, and we need to get back in that leadership position that we were for many, many years. I can't even spell Martinsburg. Okay? All right? So, I'm telling you, congratulations on being named head coach.
Thank you.
Welcome. If there's anything we can do, everybody in this room and everybody in Vienna is going to be behind you. And thank you for coming. I really appreciate
It's an
it.
honor to be here, and I appreciate the support.
Anything you'd like to say?
You know, I was born and raised in Vienna, 20th Street. Used to be the old Pizza Hut at the end of the road. Went to Neal Elementary, went to Jackson Junior High, and then went to Parkersburg High School. So I'm a Vienna boy, right? Left for a few years to go over and coach at Warren, but I never left Parkersburg and Wood County. And I'm thrilled and honored to be back, and I'm truly blessed to be the head football coach at Parkersburg High School. I can't wait to get started, and I appreciate everyone's support.
You all may remember that his brother was Mark. Mark was one of the best football players we've ever had.
He's okay.
One of the best football players we ever had, and I was really disappointed when he graduated that West Virginia didn't sign him right now. Yeah. He is just exactly like Brett Favre. He's a winner, okay? And anyway, it would have been interesting to see what happened there. But anyway, congratulations. All right.
Good luck, buddy.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes from the March 3rd, 2022 regular council meeting have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
I just have one real quick that I caught on myself when I did the who was present and who was not. I had Jim here and not here. and I did not have
True.
Roger, which is kind of true. And I didn't have Roger on there at all. So I'm just correcting that Roger was present and Jim was not for last week's meeting.
Okay, so if you'll correct that then,
Yes.
then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Those aren't of any consequence. All right, so we move on. The report of the treasurer, Councilman Leach.
Been provided by City Finance Director, reconciliation funds for City of Vienna dated March 5th, 2022. I've reviewed the accounts, they appear in order, and the City of Vienna is financially sound.
All right, thank you. So the first item on our agenda this evening is a presentation this evening from Discovery World on Market. And with us this evening, we have Mr. Trey Ross, who is pretty much the driving force behind it. But we also have Wendy with us, and Wendy's the machine that makes it go. So if you all would please tell us about Discovery World.
Okay. I'm trying to hide.
You can point out the pretty picture. Well, good evening, and thanks for having me this evening. I'm Wendy Shriver. I'm the Executive Director of Discovery World on Market, and I'm very happy to be in this role. I had been with Downtown PKB for 7 years, and Trace was on my board at the time, and I changed gears and decided that he needed my help in getting this thing up and running, so here I am. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Discovery World. So our official name is the Children's Museum of the MOV, but we're also known as Discovery World on Market. And our main programs and exhibits will provide families with an alternative leisure time venue while offering a unique array of stimulating experiences for children around the theme of work and careers. Exhibits will have a science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or STEAM, focus and serve children with a focus of 0 to 8-year-olds, with additional programming supporting children up to mid-teens. Museum exhibits are under development right now by a company named Roto, which is one of the nation's leaders in children's museum design. Our exhibits will cost $4.1 million and will provide a much-needed educational opportunity for children throughout the Mid-Ohio Valley and beyond. In addition, we anticipate the Discovery World to be a regional draw, pulling visitors from surrounding counties, including Jackson, Pleasants, Ritchie, Wirt, and West Virginia. And in Ohio, we anticipate serving Athens, Morgan, and Noble counties, as well as Washington. Our projections estimate that in our first year of operation, our reach of visitors that will come to the museum will be over 26,000 people. Our organization is comprised of a 14-member board of directors chaired by Trace Ross, Executive Director of the Ross Foundation. Our board members also include Dr. Chris Gilmer from WVU Parkersburg, Mike Townsend from Woodcraft Supply, Melissa Ross from the Ross Foundation, Ryan Barber, City of Parkersburg, Keith McClung, Crown Florals, Tim and Monica Matheny from Matheny Motors, Leo Leck from Comores, Travis Ryder with Ryder Legal and River Road Investments, Christy Willis from Wood County Schools, Zach Stanley with United Bank, Karen Waller with the Belpre Chamber of Commerce, and Heather Miller from Building Bridges to Careers in Marietta. Since 2018, the Ross Foundation has been allocating funds, lots of them, and working behind the scenes to gather data and research for the feasibility of creating a children's museum in downtown Parkersburg. Discovery World on Market became a nonprofit in 2019 and received our IRS designation in April of 2020. Countless hours of meetings and planning have taken place to design these state-of-the-art exhibits that will span over 13,000 square feet of museum space in the former Masonic Temple building on Market Street. So if you can look right here at this first one, we're going to look at the river. We begin in the basement with the river adventure. Nature is one of the most popular themes in a children's museum. Through imaginative play and STEAM activities, the river adventure invites visitors to uncover the wild and wonderful nature of the Ohio River, the importance to our community, and how many animals and plants call this area home. On the first floor, it's home to the ball factory, which is, I believe, right underneath of it. Down on the floor, yeah. The factory features a central climbing structure that provides children with graduated series of safe yet challenging physical obstacles that encourage visitors of varying abilities. This structure is enriched with whimsical design elements and surrounded by kinetic ball activities that draw inspiration from the factory processes and Parkersburg's rich industrial history. The second level, which overlooks the ball factory, is home to our Discovery Zone room. This beautiful space is perfect for birthday parties, meetings, trainings, and field trips. The Discovery Zone will also be utilized for children's programming that will take place in Discovery World. The second floor is also home to the location of the cafe, sponsored by Mary Ann Kettleson. Our grab-and-go type snacks are perfect for visitors to stop and refuel for more time to play. The cafe will also feature our very own Mr. B potato chips. The third floor will be home to our very own makerspace, which is sponsored by Woodcraft Supplies. Children will explore how to become builders and makers, incorporating hand tools with technology, such as a 3D printer, CNC router, and a laser cutter. It's like shop class for those of you who had shop class, and then they did away with it. We're bringing back shop class. Also located on the third floor is our design studio. In the design studio, visitors will explore making and problem solving with a variety of materials, creative platforms, and testing apparatuses. As a hands-on entry point for STEAM concepts, as well as experimentation and design thinking, the activities will guide our young visitors through creative and technical processes while providing them an authentic encounter with materials, tools, and technology. Discovery World on Market is slated to open this fall and will be complete with a big grand opening celebration that you're all welcome to come to. Additional staff, other than myself, will be hired to complete our team, and of course, planning for volunteer recruitment is already underway. Tickets and memberships will be available in the coming months, and Discovery World on Market will also be participating in an initiative called Museums for All, which offers free memberships to our underserved children. While working right now, we're identifying funding opportunities throughout various communities and writing lots of grants, and with this $5,000 request, 50 families from Vienna would benefit from the Museum for All membership to Discovery World on Market. Museums for All initiative is an initiative of the Institute of Museums and Library Services and is administered by the Association of Children's Museums. Through Museums for All, those receiving food assistance or SNAP benefits can gain free or reduced admission to more than 800 museums throughout the United States simply by presenting their EBT card. Outreach work is already in works right now with Wood County and Washington County schools, and we've begun with our Name Our Mascot contest, which is going on through the end of this month, and then we'll be planning with local schools for future field trips. Our slated hours of operation will be Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5 p.m., and Sundays, noon to 5. We will be closed to the public on Mondays and Tuesdays so we can accommodate field trips and large groups. To keep up with our progress, feel free to follow us on Facebook or Instagram or on our website, dwonmarket.org. I'd like to thank you for this time this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'm sure Trace would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Wendy, is the visitor and convention center, are they involved in this in any way?
Yes, so
Okay.
we've been working with...
It just popped in my mind
Yes.
as you were giving your presentation.
We'll be working with Mark Lewis on the state, locally as well as the state CVB. We've been working with Chelsea Ruby down at the state, and they're going to provide opportunities for us to do marketing co-ops so we can pull from a larger pool than just the Mid-Ohio Valley, because we anticipate this being a regional tourist destination.
Yeah.
So Mark's very excited about that because that means more hotel motel overnight stays. So
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you very much for taking this on. You're saving a miraculous building, and you're bringing something that children need in this community. It's fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd be happy to give you guys a tour if you like. I call it the dust tour right now. But I think it would be awesome to see it before and after. So if you would like to come down sometime, just get a hold of me and I'd be happy to show you through the building.
Will you remind me one more time when you're projecting it to be fully open?
Our contractor would like us to say fall.
Okay.
We're looking at October.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's going to be fall.
Yes.
Got it. Fall is good. That's good. That's good.
It's a great project. We're excited to help with it. So
He's being modest. They're supporting 85% of this project between the Ross Foundation and the Ross family members. So my job's been to fundraise, and that's what I've been doing since I've been here since September, is writing lots of grants and having events so we can start to educate people about it and get the word out about it. So
It's about a little over a $10 million project. About 85% of that will come from between our foundation and the family. So we're honored to help with this and really excited to help bring our youth, to help showcase things for our youth. It's also, I mean, sure, we've all been involved in downtown development a lot, whether from our other activities with the Learn House and everything else. But this is one that I'm really excited about, what we can see for our youth and to help educate our youth through educational play environment. I had no idea I'd be doing a project like this, but we said as a family, let's do something big. This is what it ended up being. It was a blank slate question. What can we do to help bring something together that can energize our youth? So,
All right. Well,
So
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to item number 2, general fund budget revision number 3. Councilman Leach.
General fund budget revision number 3 is for the fire department under account number 558, capital outlay other. This is increasing the current budget of $25,000 by $3,850 to $28,850. This is for additional work for upgrading the sirens that we're going to hear go off in about 40 minutes. And the chief would give us an update on those improvements that need made, and this is the budget to cover those upgrades.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of general fund budget revision number 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve general fund budget revision number 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of general fund budget revision number 3, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on our agenda this evening is a bid approval for the spring planting. Councilman Leach.
Sealed bids for the flower planting and maintenance and fall cleanup of the various areas of the city were opened on February 22nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. with the following results. Scott's Landscaping being the only bidder at $24,535. After careful review, the bid proposal is a recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the flower planting and maintenance and fall cleanup of Scott's Landscaping, $24,535. Funding for this project, pending council approval, was $579,5541.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bid from Scott's Landscaping, the amount of $24,535 for the spring planting and maintenance and fall cleanup of the various areas of the city.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the sealed bid from Scott's Landing for $24,535. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next item is a bid approval for the financing of a 2022 3/4 ton GMC Sierra HD 2500 pickup truck. Councilman Leach.
Sealed bids for financing with 3/4 ton GMC Sierra HD 2500 for the Park Department were open Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 11 a.m. with the following results. United Bank 3-year rate 2.49%. Total cost $37,546.20. Country Roads Leasing 3-year lease 1.88% for a total of $37,549.16. West Banco 3-year rate 2.15% for a total of $38,078. After careful review, the bid proposal is a recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the financing with 3/4 ton GMC Sierra HD 2500 is the United Bank rate 3-year 2.49% for a total financed of $37,546.20. Funding for this project is budgeted in the city's general fund out of account 5406559.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the bid from United Bank for 3 years at 2.49% for the financing of a 3/4 ton GMC Sierra HD 2500
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from United Bank for 2.49%. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
And you want to include the memorandum in the minutes because the interest rate for country road leasing was 28%. The total cost was higher than United Bank, even though they had a higher, on paper was a higher interest rate, so that there's no question.
They include other fees.
Right.
That's why we asked for a total cost of the loan, so that we can compare total costs, not just interest rate.
And I'm just saying in case somebody comes back and asks.
I understand. We can note that. That way there's no confusion between a lower annual percentage, but the total cost was higher. So
Correct.
obviously the value is in the bottom line. Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda this evening is the bid approval for the financing of a 2022 one-ton GMC Sierra HD 3500 with snow plow and spreader package. Councilman Leach.
Sealed bids for the financing of a one-ton GMC Sierra 3500 HD with snowplow and spreader for the Park Department were opened on Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. with the following results. United Bank with a three-year rate of 2.49%, total cost $81,545.76. Country Roads Leasing with a three-year rate of 1.88% with a total cost of $81,151.92. And West Banco with a three-year rate of 2.15% for a total of $81,494. After careful review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the financing of a one-ton GMC Sierra 3500 HD with snow plow and spreader is Country Roads Leasing on a three-year rate of 1.88% with a total cost of $81,151.92. Funding for the project is budgeted out of the city's general fund out of account 5406559.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bid from Country Roads Leasing for 3 years at 1.88% for the financing of a one-ton GMC Sierra 3500 HD with a snowplow and spreader for the Parks Department.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the sealed bid for the financing of a one-ton GMC from Country Roads Leasing, 3-year, 1.88%. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is a resolution approving the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding as relates to the ongoing opioid litigation. Mr. Skogstad, please.
This is the memorandum of understanding that deals with the disbursement of the first opioid, the first stage of the settlement of the opioid process. Do you want me to just read the memorandum or read the resolution?
I do in 1 second. Okay. This is the memorandum that we discussed, and you all received a copy of it, so hopefully you've had time to read it. If you'll read the resolution then.
All right. Resolution approving the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding as relates to ongoing opioid litigation. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby authorizes the mayor, his agents, or designees to take any steps as are reasonably necessary, that should be in there, to adopt the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding as necessary to further the city's participation in its ongoing opioid litigation.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution approving the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding as relates to the ongoing opioid litigation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution approving the West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding as relates to ongoing opioid litigation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is an ordinance on first reading amending 951.01 definitions to include Spencer's Landing in the Vienna Park System, repealing Article 955, Spencer's Landing, formally redesignating and describing the parcel of property that is designated as Spencer's Landing. Mr. Skogstad, you researched this.
Yeah. A handful of years ago, when Spencer's Landing was first being considered, and I guess I don't want to say developed, but was first being administered and taken care of by the city, we had some issues that came up, and the police department needed something to enforce it. So, to enforce hours and so forth. So, we passed a resolution that's under Article 955 called Spencer's Landing that sets the hours of operation, limits vehicular traffic in the area, limits the operation of non-conventional vehicles, and gives a penalty. And that was done initially in lieu of putting the park under the auspices of the Parks Department, because we honestly at that point were not sure how the property was going to be used, if it was going to receive all the necessary approvals to use more than just as essentially the green space that it is right now. And so when I went back at Ms. Williams' request to draft an ordinance or to draft legislation to place it under the auspices of the park, I recognized that it's actually fairly simple by ordinance, and we have to do it by ordinance because our ordinances set up the park's operation by, our ordinances set out how our parks are managed, and it puts it under the auspices of the Parks Department and Vienna Board of Parks and Rec and all that. So it's simple to put it in the parks, but there is a conflict if you put it in the parks, whereas you wouldn't have uniform hours of operation and so forth. So this ordinance proposes to put Spencer's Landing in the same code section that the rest of the parks are operated, meaning it's going to fall under our Parks Department. And it defines what is Spencer's Landing. And since we have two parcels down there, one is the green space that's developed, paragraph E adopts the description that we've used. That's essentially the legal description. And then it repeals that section 955. So there are a couple of things that's going to add to the process. When Spencer's Landing is incorporated into the parks, it's going to come under the auspices of the Parks Board, which is going to add another layer of management to the property. But it is also going to unify and recognize that Spencer Landing is part of the park system. So that's what the ordinance proposes to do.
All right. I'll entertain a motion on first reading for the ordinance amending 951.01 definitions to include Spencer's Landing in the Vienna Park System, repealing Article 955, Spencer's Landing, formally redesignating and describing the parcel of property that is designated as Spencer's Landing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ordinance on first reading, amending 951.01. Is there any further discussion?
I do. Russ, I may have understood what you said there, but what I got was that if this was put under the umbrella of the parks, did I understand you correctly that would take away the uniform standardized times of?
No, actually, Spencer's Landing, the Parks Department has hours of operation. You're there dawn till dusk, and they have times that you're allowed to not be in the park. Spencer's Landing actually has its own time, and we set it up so it was definitive. Spencer's Landing is open from dawn until 10 p.m. We had a cutoff, and that was at the request of law enforcement because there was less arguing about when is dusk as opposed to 10 o'clock. All this will do is this will pull it out and put it under the rules that we have as far as time of hours of operation for the park that the rest of the parks have. So it'll put it in sync with that schedule, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
So I would like to make a comment about this. From a management perspective, I am not in favor of this ordinance at all. The two parcels of Johns Manville, Spencer's Landing are not 100% completed yet. We are waiting on final disposition on the upper side, which we call the industrial side. And we are not in the development stage yet. We are still in the preparing stage, the formulation stage, whatever you want to call it. And the Parks Department does not have the manpower. I'm sure that you all received the memo from the Parks Director that if this is transferred over to the Parks Department, that he needs extra equipment and he needs extra manpower just to maintain the level of service that we've had down there for the last 3 years. The Public Works Department, because they've done all of the maintenance down there, all of the improvements, all of the remediation, is very familiar with that entire site. As you all are aware, there are 3 areas down there that require special handling because of the remediation that was done there. And until we are ready to actually develop a plan and redevelop the landscape of that, you know, the kayak launch, whatever amenities that you all decide that we need to put in down there, it is my recommendation that the Spencer's Landing ordinance stay exactly as it is, and let the Parks Department, or let the Public Works Department continue to maintain it, and that way we'll be sure that nothing is disturbed that could upset the process that's going on as far as the remediation goes. Mr. Leach, I know that you and I received a correspondence the other day that is becoming very close, but it is still not done. And so, any comments as far as the remediation?
Well, you know, working on the final report, which includes a final risk assessment for the production side, the other thing that needs to happen, we had, if everybody will recall, we had a late round of groundwater sampling that was required by the West Virginia DEP for groundwater migration, and as a result of those tests, it's still just the arsenic, which is naturally occurring in Vienna, but because it's an industrial site, it's given particular scrutiny. And so, you know, as a result of that testing, we also are going to have to approach the Department of Highways and make sure that we can get a land use covenant or restriction on River Road that basically ties the whole site together in terms of permissible use. What the mayor's saying with respect to what we've called the Riverside parcel is that we have areas that are designated, you know, that caps are to remain in place. Public Works Department is the one that put those caps in and managed it under the oversight of our remediation specialist, Tom Rebar. And so I would have to agree with the mayor that until we kind of get this all out of the program and we've got the big picture of the entire 35 acres roughly together, that perhaps, you know, we've got the resolution in place that governs the operation of Spencer's Landing, gives our administration and law enforcement the ability to, you know, to look after the property, and Public Works to continue to maintain it in its present condition until, as the mayor mentioned, you know, we're ready to move forward with the plan and hopefully the master plan for the park system that gives us that complete picture. Because I don't know that this gains anything right now. As I say, it kind of shifts responsibility in a way that's probably not the most efficient or economical right now.
What kind of special handling is involved in those caps? I guess I'm not familiar enough with what's happening down there. I guess I'm thinking, you know, they had to have ground, you know, dirt brought in, right, and that kind of stuff. But do they just have to know where they are? Like, what kind of safe handling are we talking about? Like, they can't just mow over it, or is there something special that they're having to do to maintain it?
Right. So what's done is, like, when we did the testing there, like I said, arsenic has been the contaminant of concern, which is naturally occurring in Vienna in levels that are probably similar to what's there. But again, because it's so for example, the existing parking lot when you pull in, okay, we did soil samples all over the Riverside parcel. As a result of those test outcomes, then there were areas that said this area is above the de minimis level of arsenic, and so it can't be disturbed. So, for example, down to the, I guess, north of where Buzzy's well is, there's an area there, and we cap it with, and so, for example, under the cap is just like with a gas line, you know, warning tape that says if you excavate below this, then there's got to be basically the you know, I think it's called HAZWOPER, you know, supervision of it, just so that so those requirements are there. It doesn't have anything to do with mowing or surface use of it. It's just that, you know, the cap is an environmental control, engineering control, to make sure that those areas are not disturbed without those procedures being followed. So it wouldn't stop us from doing development or anything. It's just that we have to follow those particular procedures, and all those areas are GPSed by and are accessible through the West Virginia DEP website, so you can actually go on and you can see the GPS coordinates for each area that has a restriction. You know, and in addition, just kind of an aside, while we were doing that, we also, there had been kind of a road that was worn down through there, and it was, you know, the vegetation was stressed there, so we capped it as well. That is not part, you know, of the restrictive covenants as far, it was just, again, an improvement to the contour level of the property, and also provided a level of topsoil so that it would vegetate like the rest of the parcel.
Okay. I guess that still doesn't concern me that much when it comes to the switch over. I know that we would have to address the manpower issue and possibly equipment issue, but I don't, as far as I would know, the Parks Department couldn't just take it upon themselves to start building things or digging things up. We would basically need things to just be mowed and to be usable for the public. I'm just not seeing a reason why the Parks Department wouldn't be able to maintain it if we take care of the manpower and equipment issues.
So I'll answer that one.
Okay.
Craig Metz is here, Public Works Director. And Craig and his crew and myself and Mr. Leach have been involved in this process since day one. And so the actual remediation that was done down there is a very defined process that the state requires you to do, where you dig down to where the contamination levels exceed the de minimis levels, like Jim said, and then you cap it with approved dirt, which we did. Right. And then you have to put orange indicators so that if you dig down into it, that you will notice that you're hitting orange material and you can't go any farther. You shouldn't go any farther. Right. And then you put topsoil on top of that, and then you seed it, and you hopefully turn it back into usable ground. Okay. All right? Now, if you are not familiar with that area down there and the limitations on that, then that could cause us major issues with the state DEP, because we're not allowed to do anything down there unless, if there's something we want to do down there, then we have to inform the state that this is what we're going to do. All right? We can use it. We can do anything we want, but you can't dig in it. You can't do anything in it without notifying them. And because the Parks Department has not been involved in this at all, to bring in a different crew of guys that could inadvertently disturb that remediated area, I don't see the advantage to that. Once we get ready to develop the property, then I would say we have a game plan. We distinctly identify those areas and either put concrete over them, or we make it nothing but grass, or whatever the master plan designates. But for now, there is absolutely no reason, none, to take this away from the Public Works Department, because they already have a system. They have a dedicated crew that have been working on it and the industrial side to make it look very nice. And they know all of the areas that should be treated, with care. And I frankly do not see the reason for doing that.
Let me ask this. So I don't see why a directive couldn't be made. And like you just said, we can't disturb any of that without, talking to the DEP and stuff. And that goes for anybody. I mean, nobody can go down there and just start digging around. So, I mean, they are an official department of the city. And I think we should be able, and it's not like it's 50 people we're communicating to. It's, the director and I think 8 employees. Why can't we just do a directive and say, this is really important, please no digging, all we need you to do is mow and weed eat. And I'm not sure, I think that the work that Public Works would continue to do, like bringing down the dirt, that could continue, right? I mean, that's not a conflict, that's not one department working over top of another, because the Public Works Department, I mean, that's still their thing to be able to bring the dirt down, right? I mean, are you saying that until Public Works is done filling in where the trees came out, that?
I'm saying until we're ready to develop it, we adopt the master plan, which the Parks Department presented, so that we have some direction of what is actually going to go in down there. But
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, we already have started developing it. We already have a Gold Star Memorial. We already have a story walk. So it's not that we haven't already started developing it. We have. So I think that's kind of a moot point in a way. We're just putting it under parks because we've already said this is going to be a recreational area and we have grants out there for it. And we're moving in that direction. So I haven't been sold. I still don't see why it couldn't be transferred over.
Yeah, I just want to comment
Excuse
on the legal part, and I'll ask
Excuse
permission
me?
in a second.
Mr. Azinger?
It just seems to me it'd be a lot smoother to leave it the way it is. We wouldn't have to buy another piece of equipment. We wouldn't have to train another guy. We wouldn't have to have the risk of digging where we shouldn't dig or whatever. And I think this is not the time to do it.
Okay, Mr. Skogstad?
The only thing, and I'm trying to answer what I think is Ms. Elam's concern, is why would you want to transfer it, or why not transfer it now? From the lawyer perspective, the only concern that I have is the park board operates to some degree with a large amount of autonomy from city council. The expertise at managing and
Change that.
well, they do.
Yeah, I understand.
And you can deal with that, yes. But they operate with autonomy from council. Right now, all of the expertise as far as dealing with the DEP issues has been through city council. The only concern I have is if the park board were to take some action there to authorize something or what have you that could affect
They can't take action though without our approval, right?
The
Don't
part-
we make recommendations here?
They do some things, but the Parks Director is the director of, well, this is from the Department of Redundancy. The Parks Director is the Director of Parks.
Right.
And so he has a certain amount of autonomy down there. You have to come to council to get permission to do things, but my concern is, and it's maybe a minor concern, but I want to bring it to your attention, is if the Parks Director or the Park Board were to authorize or do something down there to affect the property, not knowing that they could be affecting the property or affecting the ground cover, that could happen, and potentially until the process is finished with the DEP could affect.
Could that be an
DEP
amendment
process
that would add to it?
You could put something, well, you could amend it here, or you could have a directive through the Parks Board that no action is to be taken without, approval of council or something like that. I'm not saying it's not something that can be managed.
Yeah, it
I'm
still gets
saying-
managed from here. I mean, this is a massive project. Good.
The-
Can I have a handheld?
You've got to shorten that, and I.
had it looked at 5 times.
And like I said, the only concern is the expertise with dealing with it has been with council thus far. And the only concern that I would have, the lawyer concern, is to transfer management of that to the Parks Department before the procedure is finished. And I understand that the possibility is remote and you could work around it. But I just am concerned with somebody who's not been managing the property to come in and start managing the property before the project that we have with the
One more
DEP is
thing, real quick.
finished.
I think it's a matter of
She's not
process
going to be
too.
next.
Oh. It's a matter of process still. Like it's that if it's a parks, if it's going to be a park, I don't know why the park board and parks director wouldn't be involved in it from the beginning. So I'm kind of going back to process again.
So,
Sorry.
no.
What?
Are you finished?
Probably not.
Well, no, okay. I don't want to interrupt you, but I am going to speak next, okay? So the other thing that I think that needs to be considered here is that the Parks Director is on light duty, and he will be on light duty for somewhere between 6 weeks and 2 months until he's actually able to go back into the field and do the normal things. Now, without the Parks Director's supervision, I'm not willing to put this at risk. I mean, we've worked for 6 years to get this thing to where we're, right at the finish line and getting it all cleaned up. And I'm not willing to risk that.
Okay, is it my turn now?
If your microphone's on, yes, ma'am. There you go.
Okay, great. So I asked this to be put on the agenda for several different reasons. Number one reason, in October of 2020, we received a certificate of completion for the Spencer's Landing portion. I understand we don't have the completion for the production side. At that time, up until that time, we were told, as soon as we get that certificate of completion, it's going to be made a park and we can consider development as a park, okay? That was, a year and a half ago? We have had a master plan developed. They've shown some great ideas of what it could be as a park, okay? We have a flap grant that, as far as I know, we've been awarded, which is going to put a kayak launch into Spencer's Landing, once again, a recreational component. I think it's a red herring to say, oh, the Parks Department is not familiar with anything, they're not going to do, they can't, they're going to mess something up, and, Public Works has been dealing with it. Here's the problem. There have been all kinds of things that have happened at Spencer's Landing that this council has had zero input on, okay? Story Walk. There was a little mini library put in there, and I'm not opposed to those things, but the idea was it's for a park, and it was supposed to have community input, okay? So those two things happened, and then in November of 2021, at the end of last year, all the trees get removed. There was never a conversation with this council as to why the trees are being removed. Perhaps there's a good answer. I've been told maybe 4 different things of why that is. I still don't know why it is. But I do get calls from the public wanting to know why the trees are removed, and now there's a big eyesore down there. And then you go back to the master plan that was considered, those trees were to remain there. Now, and there was supposed to be a nature or wetland walk through those trees, et cetera. Maybe that's not something that's feasible. I don't know. But we don't have those conversations in council because it just remains among a couple individuals who make the decisions down there. And that's what's concerning. If we're going to tell the public, hey, this is going to be a park, because that's what we've told the public, but then we keep moving things around and creating things down there, and we don't come to the public, and then by the time we make it a park, it's already done. I have zero concerns that the Parks Department, the Parks Board, or the Park Director are going to do anything at that park other than mow it without coming before the council or anything. That's a complete red herring. That's my comment.
All right, any more comments? All right.
I might have an issue just understanding what, when we talk about the manpower, it's being done now, and it's being done very well. If you get down there after they've mowed and after they trim, I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks great. So it's being done now. Where is the need for additional manpower if this would go under parks? That's what I'm having
The gentleman that does it now works for Craig, all right? And in order to put it under the Parks Department, it would have to come out of the Parks Department. And Steve does not have a additional mower to mow that, whereas Craig has mowers in store that he brings down there once a week, and weed eaters, and they trim it and do whatever, all right? So that's the point of that, is you're utilizing equipment out of the Parks Department. And, the issue that is, there are only 7 employees in the Parks Department. That's it, okay? And they maintain all of the areas around town, all of the parks, the fields, the median. It's a lot of mowing to do, So that's my concern there, is that, there would, and Craig's down 2 or 3 employees now, so he's not willing to give up one of his employees, which I understand. And we just have not been able to find any replacements.
So,
Go ahead.
but, it was the recommendation. The Parks Director has no problem doing this whatsoever. And I'm just trying to read the email that he sent to us really quickly, kind of trying to skim it, but.
He wants another employee and another piece of equipment.
Well, he says that he currently has $25,000 in the budget proposal for people to help with grass cutting and weed cutting, et cetera. And there is in the budget, he already has a mower in there, the Tiger mower, I think it's what it's called.
You're not reading it right, Kim. The mower that he's talking about is the budget. In the budget is the mower that he needs as a replacement for him. He wants an additional mower for this one down there. It's not that same one. He needs another one besides the one that he's talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't think, right now we're in budget. If we need to move some stuff around, that's the point. That's another reason why this is a great time to do this.
Okay.
I mean, if we know it's going to go to the parks, we've already told the community it's going to go to the parks, but yet we keep doing things to it, telling the community, hey, we're not taking it to the parks. I mean, I think that's a bad way to go.
I'm just telling you from a management standpoint, from the way the park has so few employees, and the way that Spencer's Landing is being properly taken care of now, it is my recommendation that this ordinance be voted down and that we address these issues once we get to the redevelopment stage, because at that point, the park board will have to be involved, the public will have to be involved to develop the master plan to go forward.
I have one more question, Mayor. I asked you last week what plans you had for Spencer's Landing, because, regarding the budget, how much money you think you need for anything to happen there, and you said nothing. You don't have any plans for that. So once again, I just think this is a switching some stuff around in the budget. Now's the time to do it. Let's make it a park.
Okay, so my comment to you would be, if it were me and I took a blank piece of paper, I could develop that park in 10 minutes. But that's what I would like to see. My goal, my vision for this is not what I want to see. It's what the public wants to see. It's what enhances Vienna. It's what brings people to our community. All right? And so when you ask me, I'm not going to say. I mean, my first thought obviously is a walking trail. I think the walking trail on the riverfront would be absolutely fantastic. All right? But as I said, that's why we pay people like CEC Engineering to come in and do a master plan to give us a basic footprint of what would work down there. And then it will obviously have to come back to council to have the money allocated. And so, I'm not going to make any suggestions because I have no idea whether it'll cost $1 million or, whatever.
That was not my question last week. It was in regards to was there some other remediation or some other process that had to happen, such as taking down the trees, that just happened?
We've been through the trees so many times, okay? And I've tried to explain to you every time that we've had this discussion that the trees were removed because they were absolutely scrub trees that were in the way of the surveying crew because we had no idea where the property line, the boundary line is on the upper side of the project. That fence that is there has been there for years, all right? Now, in our discussions with the state in regard to the kayak launch and with the engineering firm, the first thing that had to be done was to survey that piece of property to find out where we could actually build that location, all right? So the trees had to be removed. They were absolutely terrible. It is not a wetlands. It's never been designated as a wetland. It was just filled with junk that needed to be taken out of there and cleaned up. Now, having said that, it is my vision that we take the dirt out of the park over there where we'd like to build the baseball field, and we haul that dirt over and we fill that hole in there and we plant seed and straw on it, and then we'll see where it happens. But I would like to see it filled because I think it's a hazard having that thing open like it is. Now, we'll do that in-house, all right? But that's the reason why the trees were removed. And to this point, we still have not had it surveyed, all right? So that's my answer on the trees.
I have a couple of comments.
Call the previous question.
Okay, Mr. Azinger's called for the question.
There's no more time for comment?
Well, if someone.
May I make a comment still? Or is that, I don't know how it works.
Technically, we've not adopted Robert's Rules of Order, but once the question has been called, then the discussion ends and it's time for the vote.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor of the ordinance amending 95101 definitions to include Spencer's Landing in the Vienna Park System, repealing Article 955 Spencer's Landing, formally redesignating and describing the parcel of property that is designated as Spencer's Landing, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion fails 4-3. The next item on our agenda this evening is a resolution to close Jackson Park Pool for the 2022-2023 season. This is a resolution, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna, based upon the recommendation of the Vienna Park Board, the Jackson Park Pool will be closed for the 2022-2023 pool season. Mr. Roberts, you represent the Park Board, right?
That's correct.
I'm sorry?
That's correct.
Has the Park Board formally voted to do this?
No.
No.
Okay, then how can we have a recommendation by the park board?
Because I'm moving to table it until next week.
I think what
That's,
That
that's,
works for me.
yeah, because we weren't able to get it onto their agenda, but we had to make our agenda before we knew that we couldn't get onto theirs.
Yeah.
And we're having a special meeting next week, and this will be on it, and then we'll bring it.
At the
This will
time
be
the
on next week.
resolution was drafted, the anticipation was that the park board would be able to meet, and we were prepared if they were making the recommendation. They were not able to have this item agended, and so that's where we're at.
Yes,
So you
so
make
do
a
I,
motion to
I'll make a
table it?
motion to table the resolution
Until next meeting.
until next meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We table this until the next meeting. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? All right, it's tabled until next. Would you put that on the agenda, please? Okay. All right. Before we go to budget discussion number 9, I would like to request an executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Let the record reflect that we went into executive session at 7:02. Hey, Kim, we're going to go back into John Knapp's office in the front of the building.
I'll take it back.
You got it.